Turo, right? They're going public via SPAC. I saw that this company Turo was going public via SPAC. So for the first time ever, I've always rented cars every time I travel, and I've done the traditional. I rent the car from the airport, get off the plane, grab my bag, go over to the rental car place, and I say, hey, let me get my car. I sign a bunch of paperwork. I get the keys. I rent the car. I bring it back. So for the first time ever, I decided to try use Turo. So I was traveling to San Antonio. I got on a plane. I flew to San Antonio, and I said, well, let me see how much it costs to rent a car. The car I wanted to rent, or the kind of car I wanted to rent, cost about $500 for, I don't know, I think I was going to be there for like 4 or 5 days. I said, okay, $500. Let me see what this same car is going for on Turo. Turo, the same car was $150. I said, wow, this car is way cheaper. Wow, but I never used Turo. Let me try to use them. So I booked the car via Turo. I requested the car. So how it works is you go in, you see the car, and you say how long you want to use it. You write a note on what you want to use it for, and the owner has the option to accept you or not accept you. The owner accepted me. The owner says, hey, yes, you can use my car. I think it was like $150, right? I fly into San Antonio. I get to San Antonio. I get messages on my phone from the owner. They are DMing me, telling me, hey, what airline are you? I'm outside by the airport. Boom. The owner gives me the car. He gives me the car. I look at the car. We do a walk through the car, make sure it's clean. I mean, as soon as I walk outside of my baggage claim, my car is there at the exact time I wanted it to be there. I get in the car. I drive off. I go to stop by a little restaurant. I love to go to Rudy's. If you've been out of San Antonio, Texas, or whatever, everybody loves to go to Rudy's. Haven't had it in like 10 years. I go to Rudy's. I get the Rudy's, and I realize I turn the car off, and I realize that I don't have the key to the car. I don't have a fob to the car. I'm like, man, they forgot to give me the fob. I called a guy because they gave me their phone number. I said, hey, I don't have the key to your car. He showed up, gave me the key to the car while I was at the restaurant. You know, I gassed up the car. I used it the entire week that I said I was going to do. Gas it up, you know, nothing's wrong with the car. Now, when it was time for me to turn the car in, I met him at the airport. The guy met me at the airport. He looked over the car. He gave me the thumbs up. I gave him a thumbs up. He gave me a good review. I gave him a good review, and that was it, right? Now, I'm going to give you the pros and cons that I wrote down of using Turo or not using Turo. The pros and cons. Where are we at in here? Where are we at? Okay. So the good thing is, number one, it definitely was cheaper than the airport, because Turo, you're borrowing the car from a person who actually has the car, versus when you are an airline, you're a rental car company, you have to pay for parking fees, airport fees, transportation fees, all these other fees that are passed on to the consumer. So going through Turo was definitely number one benefit. It was cheaper. Two, I did like the convenience. Most airports, depending on the size of the airport, to get to your rental car, you might have to catch a trolley. You got to catch a trolley. Then you finally get to your rental car spot. Then you have to be in line. You have to wait, sign all type of paperwork. They might have the car. They may not have the car. They might give you a different car. You just never know, right? Now, with this one, I walked out of baggage claim, and the guy said, boom, I'm here. Here's your car. Drop the keys in my hand. So the convenience of picking up was definitely a big plus. So the convenience of picking up, and it was way cheaper. Number three, I always had contact with the owner. The owner gave me his phone number. I had, you know, if I caught a flat tire, if I got into an accident or whatever, I had the owner's line right there, right? So usually when you rent a rental car, they give you some 1-800 number. And I remember one time I hit a deer. I think I was in Alabama, Mississippi somewhere. I hit a deer. My bumper flew off, and it was like pulling teeth to find some help. I had to call a 1-800 number. I ended up driving back to Pensacola, Florida with my bumper dragging because it was like 3 o'clock in the morning and I couldn't get no assistance. But with them, I had a direct line phone number. When I did not have that key, I was able to call them, and he came by and picked me up, not picked me up, but gave me the key right away. So having the, number one, having the person right there. Number four, using the same person over and over. So when I dropped the car off, he said, hey, Prince, if you ever come back to San Antonio, you need to borrow a car, just hit me up. And you can borrow the car and, well, rent the car, okay, of course, but you can use the same person over and over and over if you frequent an area. So if I go to New York all the time and, I don't know, why would you rent a car in New York, especially if you're going to New York City? But if you're going to upstate New York, that would make sense. But New York City, you just get around with public transportation. But you can use the same car over and over. You know exactly who the car is. I mean, you know exactly what the car is, who you're borrowing it from, all those type of things. You know exactly what you're getting. So those are the 4 big plus that I loved about Turo versus my traditional way of renting. Now, number 4, because all they're doing, they're just Uberizing the way that we rent cars. They're Airbnb, which Uber kind of started it. Do you have Airbnb doing it to hotels? Do you have Turo doing it to rental cars? Now, the bad side, right? So the bad side is, one, you just can't leave the car somewhere. So for prime example, if I have a flight at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can just drive my car up and just drop it off and leave the keys in it and just catch my plane. If I'm doing it with Turo, I have to make sure I stay there and make sure I'm there for the exact person. So I don't like that for per se. Let's say if I'm running late or if I'm running early, I have to wait until I meet that person there to check that car out, right? So if you have a person that owns a car that's a little bit late, that could throw you behind. Versus with rental cars, I'm used to just showing up, dropping the car off, letting people get it later on, everything being good to go. But you can't do that with Turo. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to wait on somebody, right? So the next thing, my little key issue. I had my little key. I didn't have usually the keys to the car are usually in the car with a rental car, but he forgot the keys, but he fixed it. So that was one thing. So that's about it. Drop off area and my little key situation. So dropping it off, making sure I had to check it out with somebody before I left. That was a little, but I did like the pickup side of the house. So definitely a company that I kind of like. That's my review on Turo. Now I've seen on the business side of the house, people saying, hey, buy a brand new Mercedes or buy a G-Wagon truck or whatever. They buy them and they just put them on Turo and they just rent them out and they use it as a business. I talked to the guy about that. He said he made pretty good money off of it. It may be a good business venture, something I may look into in the future. Could be. So on the business side of the house, I have seen people buy cars and just put them on Turo and just let them be rented. The business side of the house with that, you got to make sure you got the proper insurance. You don't know who you're going to get. You don't really get the people's driver's license. I think when I got there, I had to show them my driver's license to make sure they knew I had a driver's license. But say if somebody wrecks the car, if somebody wrecks the car, they need a replacement. I don't want to deal with all that heavy work. Of course, I would have roadside assistance to fix a flat tire. But let's say if somebody rents my Mercedes and crashes it and they need another car, I don't want to be the person to run out there, sit there they took my car and they drove it 2 hours away. I don't like that heavy lifting on that. Maybe there's a service out there that stops that or does something with that. You can buy a type of insurance. That could be it. But that's one of the things I look at. But of course, if you can just take your car, rent it to good people, rent it to the same people over and over while they come to the city, of course, that's a good deal. But that's my little rant and rave on Turo. Let me see what y'all guys and girls are saying in the comments.